Hey guys, how are you doing? It is ProRogueBear here. My name is Ben, and today we're going to be going through OBS and going through all the different steps, getting it all ready so that you could start streaming as soon as you've done these, and you'll have it all set up and ready to go. So we're going to walk right through it. Let's jump into it. So one of the first things you'll need to do is actually download OBS. So you can download that on the OBS website. You can also download the OBS.live from Stream Elements. So you can go to Stream Elements website. That's actually the version that I use, and it's basically normal OBS but with a Stream Elements plugin. And obviously there's other options like XSplit and Streamlabs OBS as well. But we're going to be focusing on OBS itself with the added kind of OBS elements too. So once you have OBS downloaded, you should open it up and you should have something like this. You'll have like a scene and you'll have your controls and things like that. Now yours might be laid out a little bit differently, but one of the first things is that you can move these around to wherever you want them to be. So if you want, I think controls starts down on the right or something like that, but you can just drag and drop these wherever you want. So you can get a good idea of how everything looks and go from there. Really crucial that you kind of have a layout that you really like and that is familiar for you, so you can start to get used to it and whatever feels natural for you. So I find, because I prefer to have my controls on the left below my scenes. I like to have my sources and my scene transitions here, and then we have my audio mixer and the stats. Now normally stats and Twitch stats and things like that are all stacked as well. You can basically drag them over and then you can create little tabs as well. So if you're quite minimalist, you can actually like stack a load of these and just have a few tabs and actually just switch between them at the bottom there in just some tabs. So a lot more minimal, not as much information in your face, but more on demand for you when you're ready to kind of pick that up. And this up here, this black space up here, this is your preview window. So this is what will eventually show your game. This will show your camera, all your different overlays and bits and pieces as well. That's where that'll all come into play. And you can toggle this off. If you want to save some resources on your computer, then you can actually disable the preview, and that can sometimes help your CPU and your GPU out a little bit. It's not then trying to render it on OBS and then stream while you're playing the game, especially if you're on a one PC setup. If you've got a powerful enough rig, then it shouldn't matter as well. As long as you don't have like loads of different instances up all over the place, it should be fine. So scenes are a collection of different sources, and normally they all have like a different purpose behind them. So you might have a console streaming scene, you might have a game capture PC stream scene, and you may have like a just chatting, a be right back. And so you can have different things displayed on those scenes, and then you can switch between them by just clicking on them. So for instance, we could create a getting started scene, and we could just name this one getting started. So that could be like, we're live in 5 minutes or something like that. And we could then have we could add a new scene, and we could have this one as our main scene, maybe something like that. That's like our default one perhaps that we run. Now you can add your sources and audio individually to your respective scenes, or you can also have it so that they're referenced, and that means basically that item will appear on multiple scenes that you choose. So if we were to add a source, so let's first of all go to sources, and we will add, to begin with, we can add a video capture device. And this would be for like adding your webcam or something like that. For instance, if you were going to set that up, you could call this webcam, click OK. And you'll then be able to choose from the drop down. Now, I am already using my cam link to record this in the first place. So you could try Logic Capture, but it's going to come up saying that there's no capture involved at the moment. If you know your device settings, you can always switch this to custom, and then you can tweak with your FPS and video format. If you've set it up correctly on a cam link, it will already be outputting what your camera is streaming. If you're on a webcam, then normally you can change those settings in the webcam settings, like in the Logitech Hub, if you've got like a C920 or something like that. So make sure you're choosing the right one that you need. And these different options you can all change and adjust. And you can also, there's a configure video bit as well, which isn't popping up because I don't think this is an actual video source technically. But we'll click OK because it's showing us like the preview that we're after. So that's fine. So it gives you an idea. And you can just click and drag this, and this is going to be where it would show on your stream. So you can scale this down if you want, and then you can pop this in the bottom left corner if you wanted. It's entirely up to you on that side of things. And you can also, by right clicking and going to filters, you can also add effects and video filters and things like that. So you can add a load of different bits and pieces. You can do your chroma key and all that kind of stuff as well, and scaling, and you can even do masks and things like that to get different shapes. So you can see on mine at the moment, we've got the rounded corners. So that's basically a way of just making those corners rounded rather than edgy. But that's how we would go about adding sources. So one other thing we can do is if we go to File and Settings, this will pop up with your OBS settings. Now, a lot of this stuff on the main screen you can keep as is. You can play around with the snap sensitivity, which is when you're moving things around and having them match together. And there's some little kind of quality of life things that you might want to happen when you do something and stuff like that. All personal preference here. On the stream itself, you can choose your streaming service and figure out the settings and everything. And this is also where you'd put your Twitch key, your stream key as well. Obviously, you don't want to do that while you're kind of recording or anything. And you can find that under your channel settings on Twitch. And you can then just copy that and paste that in here, and it will connect it. Now, OBS actually can let you connect Twitch just by logging in as well with Twitch. So right from OBS. So you don't even need to kind of copy it if you don't want to. You can just log straight in and it will sync the two together. Your output is where you're going to control the quality of your stream. Now, this will be very dependent on your internet. Now, what I'd recommend is switching to advanced. And on your encoder, if you've got an RTX graphics card, so like a 2060, 2070, or a 2080, 2080 Ti, something like that, you can choose NVIDIA NVENC. And what that will do is there's a little portion of your NVIDIA graphics card that is basically got the resources there to encode your stream for you. So taking some of that load off of your CPU, and it doesn't hamper your GPU performance because it's not used by the GPU normally. So using the NVIDIA NVENC, if you've got the card to do so, usually is recommended, and I normally find a performance boost for doing that. X264 is using your CPU. Now, X264 is common, and if you have issues with NVIDIA NVENC, then X264 is what you should definitely be falling back to. And I know some people actually prefer just using X264 straight off the bat. Now, if you're doing X264, you want to be making sure your rate control is at a constant bit rate. Now, with the rescale output, your canvas size, which bizarrely is under video. So, but this, you can rescale your canvas size, what this is outputting, to a different resolution. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend doing that at all. It will affect the visual fidelity of it. It's not as clear. You're almost, especially if you're going from another resolution to a different canvas size, and then you're rescaling as well, it's just gonna get muddy. So I'd normally leave this unchecked. If you're unsure, leave it unchecked. Rate control, constant bit rate, and the maximum bit rate, and this is the same for NVIDIA NVENC or X264. But the maximum bitrate is 6,000 that Twitch allows you to upload. Now, if you're streaming on YouTube, I believe that is much higher. They might not even cap it. I'm not entirely sure. But this is very dependent on your internet. So if you are getting, if we were to pop up speed test quickly and we would get our download speed and we'll get our upload speed. Now in the UK, the download isn't too bad, but the upload is about as good as it gets for where I am in the country. And so the upload itself for me has been perfectly fine at 1080p 60, not a problem. And basically this would give me 37,000 kilobits per second, and you don't want to obviously use all of that, but if Twitch allowed, I could do 30,000 kilobits per second and it would be fine. Probably. Obviously we can only go up to 6. So I could put this as 6. Now what I actually do is this at 4.5. And if you're a Twitch affiliate or you're just new to Twitch entirely, then you're probably going to want to do the same as well, because the higher the bit rate is to 6,000, the better the quality, but it also means it's more for the viewer to download on their device. And so not everyone is in great internet areas. Some people are on their mobiles and things like that as well. So I found 4.5 to 5 a nice sweet spot. I don't know if it saved my settings in here. Yeah, I use 4.5 on NVENC. Now, I found that quite a nice sweet spot. Obviously, if you're a partner, probably not watching this video anyway, because you know your way inside and out of OBS, but if you're a partner, then Twitch has a thing called transcoding, which means that basically, when you can click on the little cog and you can choose, same as you can do on YouTube, and you can choose the quality resolution. So you can choose if you want to see it in 720, 1080, 4K, etc. So when you're a partner, and sometimes they give it to affiliates when it's available, but you're never guaranteed it. So if you're a partner, you could put 6,000 on there, and then it will automatically transcode to your viewers' needs, and they can change that on their end. If you're an affiliate, for the most of the time, you're only going to have one option, and that's going to be whatever your resolution is, which we'll be setting in the video section. So I wouldn't recommend doing 1080 60 4,500. 1080 60 6,000 for everything. So I wouldn't recommend doing 1080 60 at 6,000 kilobits per second for literally everything you do. And it's one of those things where unfortunately you can't change it on the fly either. So I found 4.5 to be a great kind of sweet spot for having a smooth, consistent stream where it's not too load bearing on my viewers' kind of internet or anything like that, and it still performs really well. If your internet is lower, then you want to be scooching that down a little bit, 2.5, 3,000, maybe looking at 720 p at 60 frames. And look, if you're really bad internet, 720 at 30 frames is still really good, and you could probably still get that out of 1,500 to 2,000 kilobits per second. I don't think you want to be going much lower than that though. So I would recommend 4,500 if you've got decent internet. And I think as long as you've got like about 10 megabit per second to upload, you would be fine with 3, 4, 5,000, no problem. Okay. Now, normally your keyframe interval you leave at 0, and with the X264 you get the choice of ultra fast, super fast, very fast. Now, this actually gets better the lower down you go. What this is basically doing is looking at how much time it's actually going to take to do the encoding, and if it's going to rush through it or not, and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't go further down from fast. Pretty much from medium and below, you don't see a great return for the increase in CPU. If you've got like a 9900K, a 10900K, something like that, or you've got like a Threadripper or something, you might be perfectly fine in the fast to medium realm, but I just would not. You're not going to get the returns for the resource sink that it's gonna have on your system. If you've got a bit more of a modest system, then very fast or super fast are quite good settings. And if you're on a potato, then very fast or ultra fast is a good option, and it will just use the lowest CPU possible, and will just do the bare minimum. Now mine are set to none here because obviously I don't normally use X264, but usually I have mine on main, and tune I have as none, and I don't have anything in the X264 options. Now with the profile you can also use high as well, but I normally just use main, and that works perfectly fine. Now if you are on NVENC, you basically have a few different settings. You have this keyframe interval exactly the same. You still set your bitrate, and you're still capped to 6,000 kilobits per second as a non-Twitch partner, so that's perfectly fine. Preset max quality, again, depending on the games you're streaming, the resolution you're streaming at, and the card that you have, usually max quality is perfectly fine. So for these RTX cards anyway, especially if you've got like a 2080 or a 2080 Ti, or even like the new 3080 and the 3090, you will be fine on max quality. Profile is on high. I do not have look ahead switched on, but I do have Psycho Visual Tuning on, and GPU is 0 and max B frames is 2. If you are also recording, then you can also go over here and you can choose where it saves things to and all that kind of stuff, and the kilobits per second that you're going to download to and things, which again, entirely up to you in terms of how much then, because it's not actually uploading to Twitch then, it's going to be downloading it and it's going to be saving it to your actual PC or the device that you've set it to save to. Now, if we move on to audio, down here, we've got the different sections. Now, normally what we would want to do is choose your audio devices. So if you've got desktop audio, then you're probably going to want this to come out of the headset that you're using. So that might be your headset itself, so that whatever you're hearing with the game, your channel can hear as well. So you can set that on there as well. And then mic auxiliary would be your microphone or your game microphone, depending on what you're using. By setting them here, this would actually mean that it would appear on every scene. So what I used to do is I used to actually leave these all disabled and then add the audio separately as a source, which I'll show you how to do that in a sec. That way I had more control over it, because I found otherwise, like, I'd have to mute my microphone on my getting started and my leaving screen and my be right back screen and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you don't have it and you disable it, then you just, on your be right back screen, you just don't add your microphone. You don't have to remember to mute it or unmute it. So that's what I used to do. Now I have a Go XLR. Everything basically goes in as a broadcast stream mix. And if you have a Go XLR, then you would just put that on mic auxiliary audio and you're all good to go. And that would then all come through. And we'll see if we apply this, then we'll actually see that we can now see the microphone that I'm using to record this right now is actually popping up and showing up here. And you know, if we had background music, if we had any other bits and pieces going on right now, that would also be contributing to this, because the Go XLR just feeds all the audio sources into it and then puts it as one item of audio, which is really, really useful. Again though, unlikely to have a Go XLR if this is your first time setting up OBS. So yeah, you can add by default if you want it on every scene, but you can add it source by source, and I'll show you how to add it by source in a little bit. I leave everything else here, fast, sample, peak, default. I've never felt the need to change this. Let me know in the comments if you feel like any of this is useful, but I've just, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I've just left those as they are. So we go to video. This is where the canvas happens. Now, your canvas resolution, I would normally recommend 1920 by 1080. It depends on what you're streaming at though and what your system is, and then you can scale it down if you want to. Now, I'm fortunate enough that my machine can handle everything at 1080p, and then I'm just putting it straight out at 1080p, no scaling going on at all. And I'm doing that at 60 frames per second. What I used to do is have this go out at 960, so I would still be doing 1080. I used to actually stream in 4K and 1440p, but now I just do it in 1080. I play in 1440p now, even though I've got a 4K monitor. I just play in 1440p because it's just a lot more stable, get higher frames. And I scale it. I have my canvas at 1080, so the game is 1080, and I keep it at 1080 as well. I don't scale it down. If you're finding that, again, this is kind of down to your machine performance and your internet. If you are finding that you are losing frames, you have got frames missed due to rendering lag, or skipped frames due to encoding lag, or your average time to render frame is high and you're skipping FPS and everything like that, then have a look at maybe lowering this. And again, this is what transcoding is based off of. So I'm outscaling at 1080p at 4,500 kilobits per second. If there's someone with worse internet and they're trying to watch my stream, they might not be, and I don't have transcoding on, they might not be able to actually watch it properly. It might just be buffering the whole time, which isn't ideal. I kind of want to have the quality that I'm putting out to be as high as possible. So I'm keeping it at 1080, but I know a lot of people stream at 720. A lot of people also kind of do a weirder one like 864 or 810 as well. And some people, like I said, will actually have the resolution of 1440 and scale it down. Problem with that is that the more you're scaling, the more you're going to need your downscale filter to smooth it out, to kind of like anti-aliasing, just kind of stop it from getting all kind of blocky and edgy and having all the lines everywhere. So usually I would recommend setting your canvas and having your output as the same thing, because it also lets you know, like, this camera that we've put in here is on a 1080 canvas, so this is exactly the sizing that the stream is going to see, and everything that I see on this canvas is what the stream is going to see. And I quite like just having that kind of as a point of reference. Now, obviously, you can set hotkeys and things. Mine are empty. I do not use hotkeys at all. I mean, I have a Stream Deck, so I have like a button to start and stop and things like that. So I have a button that I just press instead. If you don't have a Stream Deck yet, or you don't have one of those that you want to do yet, you can set hotkeys. I didn't even do this before I had a Stream Deck because I found so many games have different keyboard layouts. I'm a variety streamer, so there's a lot of different things going on. So I couldn't reliably have a key that was used just for OBS. So I just didn't touch it. But you might find that if you only play a couple of types of games and you know, like say the number pad or something's always empty or whatever, you might be able to set some shortcuts there. You can play around with these and do you. Now, under the advanced section, you should have your process priority as above normal. Your render should be Direct3D 11 and MV12, 709 and full. That's what I've had in terms of my color space, color format, and everything like that. You can set like default names for your recording, add a stream delay if you find like you're being stream sniped and stuff like that. I would recommend having the reconnect option enabled just in case you drop internet or OBS has a little problem and it closes. This doesn't end your stream. This means that you can it will come up saying a disconnected for all your viewers, but you can then boot OBS back up, hit start streaming again, and it will then pick up the exact same stream and it will just come straight back to your stream. So very handy to do. And what this is doing is retry every 10 seconds for a maximum of 20 times. Now, network, I leave bind to IP on default. I did actually have this where I actually did have it bound to an IP, but I didn't notice too much of a difference, to be honest. My PC itself is bound to an IP, so I don't think I need to bind OBS to the IP. But I didn't see any kind of bonus or drawback to that. But if you're finding that your internet is fluctuating or your computer or OBS is kind of bouncing around IP addresses trying to connect, then especially if you're on like a Wi-Fi connection, then you might want to bind it. And I've seen a lot of people say to turn this off. Again, this is another one where I haven't seen a difference. with it turned off or on. So I leave this on, but again, this is another one to troubleshoot if you're having issues with the settings that I've put here. This might be one where you find by just unchecking it, it might help you out, especially if it's putting a lot of stress on your PC. As always, hit apply once you're happy with everything and click OK. So what we can also do is we can add a source now, and let's add our gameplay. So we can do add game capture, and I just keep this as game capture really. And we can say capture any full screen application. I leave everything else as it is. Hook rate at normal, and I just click OK. Now, one thing you're going to want to do, because I found this game capture didn't always work until I did this, is you'll want to make sure that your OBS, either your Stream Elements OBS or your actual OBS, has this little shield icon on the desktop. You can see here on the left hand side. That is basically meaning that you're running it as an administrator. So you can go right click, properties, and you can just hit right click and run as administrator. You can do one better. You can actually set it somewhere, compatibility, and you can tick here to run this program as an administrator all the time. So you don't have to remember. It will pop up every time you click it. It will pop up and also, do you want to run as admin? Click yes. What I found is that just gives it the right kind of settings and privileges within Windows to prioritize, and it lets it bring the game capture in. I found some games wouldn't display the game capture properly without that working. You can now see it's performing here. Now, obviously, because I'm playing at 1440p, I need to transform it to screen, and we can see it here. Now if I just drag this down, so we've also got a main scene on getting started scene. So I've actually put these on the wrong one entirely anyway. So if we that's the rookie mistake right there. If we just leave that in the background, go to main scene, we'll add our video capture device. We've already create that, call that Logi Capture. Done. We'll pop that in the bottom corner again, and we'll add our game capture. And this time we've actually got a game capture now working. Now, if it doesn't work, so you can obviously do transform fit to screen. We can actually do capture specific window, and you can say, I want it to capture Fall Guys, and you should see it work. Obviously the video is now hidden, so we want it's all on a layer basis. So the lower down, the lower it appears on your list. So the more stuff you have at the top, that's going to show at the very top of your stream, and everything layers on top. So you basically will want your video capture device higher up than you will want your game capture. So I normally have my game capture near the bottom, and then I have all my different bits and pieces over the top. So you can have your camera, you can have your game capture, and you can add text, you can add all different bits, you can add audio output. So we can then choose, and we could say we want our headset and things like that. So we click OK, and all that kind of different stuff as well, and audio input as well we can do, or our microphones and stuff. So you can add them individually instead of adding them as within the settings as default. And you can also remove, rename, and you can also group things as well. So if you want to keep all of these together, then you could group them, group selected items, and it pops them all into a little group. I do this for my webcam, so my banner, webcam, heart rate, vitals, all that kind of stuff. I have that grouped, so if I move the webcam somewhere, it brings everything else with it as well. Saves me having to like move everything and get them back to the place that I want them in. I could just move them as a group, and it's so much easier. Now, if you're using something like Stream Elements, or you're wanting to bring your overlays in and stuff like that, if you're, you can either add it as an image, or better yet, within Stream Elements, if you're using it and it's free anyway, you can sign up for that for free, add your overlays in there, and it will give you a URL. And then you can actually come here and add it as a browser source. And that will just mean you've got one item instead of like 10 different graphic images. You've got one browser source that has everything pulled through. And better yet, Stream Elements is handling all the processing of that and pushing it to your stream, rather than your computer having to render all those 10 images on your stream in real time. So So it normally you see performance increase there as well. And for browser source, you literally just click it, add as a browser source, give it a name, pop the link in. Normally the width and height is 1920 by 1080. Click OK, and job done. So you've then got your overlay already. Now obviously you can keep an eye on CPU usage, disk space available, memory usage and everything like that, and you can see what you're streaming and everything like that there, and all that kind of different bits and pieces. If you want to show your monitor, then you can do display capture. And if you just want to show a particular window, and I found with some games, game capture doesn't work. So it's for security reasons, for like anti-cheat measures. So Destiny 2 is a good example of this. Window capture is the only way to get Destiny 2 to work on OBS. Game capture just does not show anything for Destiny, for instance. So you might come across other games that do that, and if that's the case, give window capture a try. It will probably work. You can obviously transform, you can add scaling and stuff as you go and everything like that too. You can add different docs and things like that. So you can add chat, Twitch stats, your activity feed. You can see your Twitch chat here. So I normally have my chat here. I have my Twitch stats just below and everything like that as well. You can save this as a profile, and you can also see your different scene collections. So this demo is what I've got with these two scenes, but my gaming default is my actual one that I use for my streaming. So this, I don't have to set my OBS all up again. I just switch to gaming default and I'll have everything that I normally use for streaming, and I'm all good to go. Basically, this is just my dummy kind of OBS just to show you guys how it works. And again, you can duplicate, you can import, export, etc. There's also a few things under the stream elements, because this is OBS Live, where you can kind of jump into your overlays, set up your bots and everything like that, activity feeds and everything. And you can also, if you just want to go back to OBS Studio, you can just do that. And you can also uninstall OBS Live if it's not for you. You can use stream elements and normal OBS. You don't have to use OBS Live, but I've found nothing wrong with it, to be honest. So I haven't had any issues at all. So when it comes to actually OBS Live itself. And yeah, whenever you're ready, once you've got it set up and you're happy, what I would recommend, just to check those settings and see what you're outputting, you can actually go to your stream. You can select enable bandwidth test mode, and then you can go to Twitch Inspector, and you can see here then last times we've streamed, how long. You can actually click into this and we can see what our performance was, and you can see a solid 4.5, and average frames was 60. We hit a solid 60 at 1080, average 4,300. So you can kind of, when you hit live after ticking that box, it doesn't actually go live to anyone else. It doesn't show it on Twitch. You can't view it yourself. And you can see how OBS is uploading to Twitch and how Twitch is receiving it. So no one will get pinged. No one will be able to watch you just staring at your screen, watching it happen, as long as you've ticked that box. And you can just see here, if it's stable, then you've got nothing to worry about. If it's coming up saying it's unstable and you can see it's having issues, then you need to scale your settings down a little bit. Either your frames, your canvas, or looking at your kilobits per second and just double checking that you're at the right settings. But this is a really useful tool. I don't know if YouTube has one. I presume they do. I presume YouTube has a similar thing like that. But well worth checking that out. So remember, when you do actually go live, to come back and uncheck this button, because otherwise, again, when you actually go live, no one's going to see it otherwise. So deselect this once you're done, click apply just to make sure it's all unticked, and when you are ready, you can then hit start streaming. And if you want to as well, if you're going to be recording this and putting this elsewhere, you can hit start recording, but otherwise just hit start streaming and you are good to go. And you can flick between your scenes and you're getting started in your main scene and everything like that. So if they're getting started, I would just pull in a browser scene. That's what I've got on mine. But you might want to just add an image, a couple of images maybe with your logo and bits and pieces like that, if you're not using something like Stream Elements. Normally when getting started, you don't have your video capture and everything like that. So you probably just have that like that basically, and then you're all good to go. And one of the good things of using Stream Elements is that you can actually then add like chat box and widgets and all that kind of stuff as well for your notifications and, you know, the little things when a follower appears and all that kind of stuff, your alerts. Main scene is where all the main stuff happens. And then you can add, like I said, you can then add like a just chatting where you have a bigger camera and bits and pieces like that. An ending screen as well, a be right back screen. So you can kind of add those scenes as you need them and you're all good to go. So hopefully you guys found that useful. Let me know in the comments below. I can be found on twitch.tv/ProRogueBear. You can catch me Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Tuesday and Fridays are our days off. You can catch me 7 PM UK time normally on there. We play a variety of different games. So if you want to come check us out and hang out, ask any questions, feel free. And yeah, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down. And apparently all interaction helps. Comment, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you found this useful. Let me know what else you would like to see. And we can probably put something together for you. So until the next one, guys, all the best. See you in the next one. Take care.